Only two players in the history of NCAA Division I basketball had scored more career points than him. Chris Clemons, when he finished his Campbell career in 2019, 3,225 points. His senior season, he was the nation's leading scorer at 30 points per game, becoming Campbell's first men's basketball Division I All-American while leading the Camels to a Big South regular season title. During his 2019-2020 season, Chris played 33 games for the Houston Rockets in the NBA, including in the NBA playoffs as the Rockets made it to the Western Conference semifinals. After coming back from an Achilles injury, Chris had an outstanding year with the Maine Celtics in the NBA's G League, averaging 16 points per game, including setting a G League all-time record, scoring 27 points in one quarter of a game. At the end of 2021, he signed a contract with the Atlanta Hawks. Since then, he has played in the Chinese Basketball Association, 2 seasons in the French First Division, and this season he is playing with EWE Basketball Oldenburg in basketball's Bundesliga, Germany's First Division. Chris is joining us now from his place in Germany. First of all, Chris, how the heck are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
It's funny how timing works, doesn't it? You know, you and I, after you had come by this summer to work out with the team and to meet the new coaching staff and everything, we talked about getting a Zoom scheduled once we figured out where you were, and our schedules really didn't align until now. So we have had this scheduled for a while, but it just so happens to be that this comes after a week when last week you scored 52 points in a game for your team. That is the most points scored in the Bundesliga in 30 years, the most ever for your club. Campbell fans, of course, will remember your unbelievable 51-point game back in the Big South tournament your sophomore year when Campbell upset Asheville. First and foremost, 52 points, Chris. Did you get that feeling again? Tell me about that night.
Yeah, man. Like you said, this is not my first 50-point game, so they all kind of feel, kind of the same. You kind of just black out, man. You just start, putting up shots, and everything seems to go in, and it's like a ultra aura of confidence that you just have, and everybody's cheering for you. You kind of just like, I'm just gonna see how far I can take it. I'm gonna see how far I can take it. So, it's always a good feeling, man. And most importantly, we won the game. So, um, everybody's definitely happy about that part.
Chris, in your long college and professional career, you have started a lot of games where you hit your first 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. So when does it become different? And when do you know you got something that is going to be hard to stop?
I think it's become a thing to not let me hit the first 3 shots in a row, because if I, I mean, I think every scout is kind of like they're trying to be on me from start to finish, man, just not to let me get a good start. Because I feel like if I have a good start, I'm just gonna keep going, man, and it seems to not end sometimes. So I, you know, so yeah, I mean, if I start off pretty good, then my teammates are usually the advocates of me to shoot the next shot and to stay aggressive throughout the course of the game. And like the last game I just played, man, they just kept giving me the balls like, hey, do your thing, man, do your thing. So it's always a credit to your teammates to let you have a game like that.
I mean, it was great. They were more excited than you or the crowd were. I know after you hit the one, the guys come and mob you and everything like that. When you started getting close to the 50-point mark, of course, 51 is in your head, that iconic game that you had here at Campbell. So when did you start maybe peeking a little bit out of it, realizing how much you're going and being like, hey, I'm going for it, man. I'm going to try to get more than 50 today.
I I honestly didn't realize how close I was to that, or how many points I actually had until like the middle of the like fourth quarter, end of the third quarter, when my teammates was like, "Hey man, you can go 50, you should try even 60 something, do something." Like I was like, I'm looking up, I'm like, "What are y'all talking about?" And I'm like, I'm at like 38, 40 more. Like, I might be able to do it, man. So, and obviously, once I got close, I kind of was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna try it." And obviously I made the shot, and it was a big moment for me and our team. It's a good team moment, you know.
Yeah, and obviously you guys win the game. It set records for your team and was the most points scored in that German first division for over 30 years. You must have, in the days following, take a deep breath, realize all the pub you're getting for that, and then you had to think about that game against Asheville and that 51 points. What memories came flooding back since it was kind of right in your face, the 50-point mark?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember, speaking of the Asheville game, I kind of remember it like it was yesterday, just how big that game was for us, how good that team that they had was that year and it being in the conference tournament. Um, and obviously for a club like us and Campbell, trying to make it to the tournament, that's kind of our only path. So how big that was, seeing my dad after the game and how excited he was and like it was kind of surreal for me. And it always feels the same every time it's a 50-point game. It's kind of like my dad's usually like the first one to reach out to me. He's like the first, message in my contact somehow. I don't know how he does it, but it all feels the same, man. Like I said, it's just a great feeling, to be able to walk off the court knowing that you did something special. In the moment, you don't really think about these records, man. I don't even that never once crossed my mind, that it was, the most in 30 years. I wouldn't have ever even known that, but it's definitely good to look back and, have that, accomplishment, going forward throughout the season.
Chris, you are in your first year there in the German first division. That people that know anything about pro basketball around the world know what a great division that is. What are your thoughts here? I know it's early. You've just been playing for about a month or so, but what are your thoughts about your team and about playing in the German league?
Yeah, man, I think we have a really good team. We started off a bit slow, but I think every game we've had been really close. It's been very competitive. I think the games that we've lost, it was very much in our control to win those games. I think we just kind of a couple plays here and there, where our chemistry was off, messed up a couple plays down the stretch. But I think that we're in a great spot. The league is very competitive. It's where everybody can and win any night. It doesn't matter what, we playing Euro League, whatever it is. So it makes the games kind of fun. I mean, the German fans are very into basketball here, so it's a great league to be at. And like you said, man, it's one of the better leagues in the world as far as basketball is concerned.
You were in a town called Oldenburg that's not too far away from from the coast of Germany there. What is that town like? What is Germany like?
Um, it's it's kind of like the French town I was in. It's kind of like really small, but everybody kind of seems to know each other. Everybody goes to basketball games, so they know who you are. Everybody's very friendly. It's very clean. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of normal life living. It's nothing too special, but everybody seems to be very nice and kind of keeps to themselves for the most part.
Man, you have a lot of stamps on your passport now, Chris. You mentioned France. You spent 2 years there with France. The year before that, you were in China. Tell me about those stops and what you remember from playing basketball there.
I remember China very. I mean, that was my first overseas actually, you know, league adventure for me. I mean, I'd call it. So I went during COVID time and it was very different, obviously. I mean, we lived in a hotel with every other team and we had quarantines and, stuff like that. So it was kind of hectic until the end where we kind of got back to some type of normalcy, playing in the arenas and stuff. Um, but it was very fun, man. The style of play is a lot different, for a foreign player to come over there. The Chinese fans, they are something else. I really loved and enjoyed the Chinese fans there. So that was great. France is my first European stop, obviously. It was a little bit different. I mean, trying to learn the French culture and try to speak a little bit of French here and there and try to assimilate. And it was the first time that, my fiance was able to come with me and, experience what, being a basketball wife and going to, different countries around the world and like living what that is like. So that was an adventure in itself, just to kind of figure out our, dynamic and how things work for us outside of basketball was, very special for us. I mean, it's something we're always going to remember between me and her. Um, but as far as basketball was concerned, a little bit different than China or really in the NBA, but it was kind of my first real experience about, European basketball and how that works. And it was very similar to kind of playing in college and how the style of play is. So I think I was able to kind of find my footing fairly easily. And I know most people aren't really able to do that, but for me, I thought that my transition was pretty smooth.
You had mentioned it a little bit, Chris. Your fiance able to be there over with you. Tell us about that and your guys, and give us our update on the whole Clemons family that we came to know very well as they watched you for 4 years here.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. She's gonna be a new addition, to our family, and we're very excited to, I'm very excited to have an opportunity to, add her to my family. And she's been great. Obviously, like I told you, our first time being overseas was in France. And just finding, stuff that she's normally used to adding, like, getting your hair done or, nails and stuff. You got to find all these different things. You got to figure out how to communicate French and, it's a whole thing, especially for women doing it for the first time. Um, and, living over there and trying to find food that you can eat and where to get it and, all type of stuff. But, this is our second and a half time around now. So now she's a pro. So we kind of get a jump on it. We kind of know how to navigate, moving to different places and so on. So, but as far as everybody else, man, my dad and everybody else that you normally see at the Campbell games, they're watching from home, man. They came to France last year and it was the best time for me. I really enjoyed them. They came to the basketball game. They really enjoyed that. But they're still super supportive, man. They're following along. We're both watching the Campbell, feed, and we're excited to see what the new coach and the new team has to offer. I think they're gonna have a really good year actually, and their schedule is pretty tough this year. So, I'm excited to see how they fare against the bigger competition. Yeah.
That leads me to my next question, Chris. Of course, like you always do, you've been so good to Campbell. When you are not overseas or in your basketball season, you usually come back a couple of times a year here. This time you came back to meet John Andrushek, Campbell's new head coach, the staff. You worked out a little bit, and you also played some pickup with the guys. So, kind of tell us your thought about the coach and the coaching staff, and kind of what you saw from the team. The whole team wasn't here yet, but from the guys you played with.
Yeah, I think they're pretty well knit together actually. They were pretty far along as far as, the way they communicate with each other that I would, you know, have expected them to be. At least they were further than we were in the summertime. So I think that was good. I think the energy was really good, having a new coach. I think the guys did a really good job of, trying to learn something from me. I think every time you get the opportunity to, be in the room as somebody that's done what you're trying to do or, is where you're trying to be at, then it's good to learn something, from them. And they definitely had their moments where they could pick my brain and I was able to be fortunate enough to share my knowledge, in spots. So I think that for me is the most important thing about me being able to come back. Is just, just to share my knowledge with them, man, and, be able to give something to.
You're still very locked into this team and this university, Chris. You were usually one of the first ones to like a good post, to like a good result for everything. You already know how tough this this schedule is going to be for him this year. What's that like? Still having that connection with Campbell and keeping track of the Camels half a world away.
Oh man, I mean, this is a blessing to be able to be, still relevant to the school, man. I mean, you never take that for granted. Um, I remember being, in the summertime at Campbell and waiting to see who we were going to play. I mean, just hoping we get as many, Power Five conference schools as possible. It seemed like it was hard for us to get any, at the time. But now they got so many, and I know it's exciting for them just to be able to, go to some of these schools and, be in their arena, and it's a big moment for them. So I hope they are able to treasure that moment because it's a very special thing.
Chris, take me way back because a lot of people asked me about it. Those that never got to see you play or anything like that. When you were a high schooler at Millbrook High School or right up the road, successful high school career. When you chose Campbell, what made you come here to Campbell, the university, and Campbell, the basketball program?
Um, I when I was in high school, I didn't have many, options. I really think that if I had more, I probably still would have picked Campbell just because I love the coach that I had, and I think he really believed in the player who I was and who I could be. I think that he had a plan for my success as a player and going forward beyond Campbell. I feel like the organization that you guys have is, top notch. We had the nice facilities. We had, everything. I mean, I think we were like a family, really. So, even my coach, Coach McGinn, I still can have conversations with him. Coach Thomas, I can still have conversations with him, and so on and so on. So, I mean, I think that was kind of the most important thing for me, just being able to be somewhere where, I could mean something. I can, man, I wasn't just another guy. So, you know, I think, if I had a chance again, I would definitely would pick Campbell.
Well, and Chris, something that was special about you and the relationship you have with that coaching staff, I have to remind people, yeah, it wasn't the transfer portal era. If you did want to transfer, you did have to sit out a year and everything like that. But I also point out that everybody else in the Big South and conferences like that were the top players in the league, they were doing that. They were going over to the Power Fives. They were doing that. So it was still back in that time before the transfer portal era, not normal for a player of your stature and your national prevalence and what you could do on the court, because of course you could play in the Power Five, but you still chose to stay at Campbell. To take me back to those decisions that you.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of reasons. I definitely had an opportunity to, move elsewhere, but I was a big advocate on people being in your corner from the start. It's usually the people you finish with, man. I think that when I got the offers from Campbell, I think they were my first offer actually. First people to believe in me when Power Five didn't really know who I could be until I was able to show, and I feel like I I feel like Campbell deserved to have me for 4 years, man. And like I said, you said, people in our conference did leave, man. They left, ended up going to the Power Fives, and some of them had good careers, some of them didn't. It was kind of a hit or miss time, and a lot of people get lost trying to do that. Being another one of the guys, man. I think that, at the end of the day, I think having a legacy to leave is more important than just saying I played in a Power Five school, and did that for a short amount of years. So I think that was a big part of my decision. And like I said, man, I wouldn't change anything, man. I'm glad I stayed all my 4 years, man. I was able to make the most out of my time.
Well, on behalf of myself and Campbell Nation, let me tell you, we are so glad you stayed here too, and we are so happy for you, all the success that you have had post college, and please know, even though we might not be there in the stands wherever you're playing in Europe, we are following you and rooting for you, man. Thank you for all you have done, and we're still your biggest fans back here in Bowie Street.
Absolutely, man. I know it, man. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. He is Chris Clemons, the GOAT here for Campbell men's basketball, the only number retired, and we will catch up with him again later this year. Thanks again, Chris.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.